welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards.
Good morning everyone, welcome back to another D3D4 Football Podcast. We are back to do our League One report cards today. We've had to have a lot of mulling over some difficult choices here, so we've all had our big breakfasts, except Chris, who's had blueberries and bananas.
It's okay.
How was that big breakfast, Chris? You're not going to post food on Twitter again anytime soon, I would imagine?
It was very tasty.
Very tasty. Someone said it looked like it had a bit of turd in it. I thought...
They need to see a doctor.
Yeah,
they desperately need to see a doctor.
I thought, jeez.
It was peanut butter for anyone.
Yeah, I don't think anyone actually believed that it was turd. I know times are hard in lockdown, but my goodness me, not that hard. Right, let's start by taking a look then. So how it goes is the points per game table. I know not going to be universally popular with quite a few people in this division. However, that is the one that counted. So we're doing it from that perspective. We're going to be looking through every team, going from bottom to top, grading them on how well we think they did based on their transfer business, the performance on the pitch, and performance against expectations. So let's start. And we start, of course, with Bolton. Now, this is quite tricky. Bolton, of course, came to the season with very low expectations, no squad. A manager left after 3 games, players going on strike because of the health and safety worries about the young players in it. Then Keith Hill and Flitcroft came in, and they brought with them a host of players. I thought Thibaut Verlinden was probably one of the standout ones. I thought he was excellent across the season. Josh Emanuel did well, and generally they improved, but I still. It's still a poor season. Even if they had no points deduction, they would have been in that relegation zone, second bottom. They would have finished based on that, or they would have been at the time when the season was curtailed. So I have gone with an E grade here because I can't give them an F. I think the circumstances around the start, but they didn't improve. The fact they've got rid of Keith Hill probably speaks volumes about the way that the fans reacted to the style of football they were playing. And Ed, what's your take on Bolton?
I had a hard time with this one as well. I went for a D, and it was a similar situation with you in that you've got to remember where they were, 12 months ago. We were worried that they weren't even going to make it to the start of the season, and they have managed to pull through that. And it was always a massive uphill task from there. And I think we all knew for a number of months that they were probably going to end up where they were. I think things would have been quite different if they hadn't had this whole situation to deal with at the start. So I'm a bit sympathetic about that. So I'd give them a D rather than anything lower.
And for you, Chris?
Yeah, exactly the same. We all expected them to do pretty poorly this season in terms of their position in the league. They have done. I think they maybe could have done a little bit better. So a D for me.
A D. Okay, so I've been a little bit harsher than you guys based on that, but actually looking forward to seeing them next season. Right, so moving on. I have a feeling we'll all agree on the next one. Southend United.
I think you might be right.
It was,
season.
It was terrible, wasn't it? It was terrible. I mean, I like the new kit, by the way. I think that's a big improvement on
the training kit.
The training kit that they wore last year. The one that had literally no design element to it whatsoever. However, still not out of the woods in terms of the problems off the field or the winding up petitions and the money owed. I think the chairman has plans to pay that off. But he's going to have to, obviously, going into League Two without being able to register players. And it was, Kevin Bond. Do you remember Kevin Bond? I mean, he was their manager when they started their pre-season. I actually went down to Southend, met a few of the staff, and got to sit in the dugout and stuff. It was a nice little trip there with the kids down to the coast. And, that they were thinking they would be a dark horse. I didn't agree with them. And turned out, with good reason, they were poor. Let's be honest. All aspects of them were poor. On the pitch, terrible. Defending was non-existent. They did bring in Sol Campbell, who has subsequently left as well, and nothing really improved too much. I don't even know if there was any standout players. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how Charlie Kelman does, and I think obviously with Humphreys they've got a couple of players that will do well. But it's a big job, and of course the grade I've given them is, it's F. They were poorer than we expected. They didn't really do well in the transfer market. I think none of the signings were a success. I mean, Liam Ridgewell, did he even play a game? Don't know.
I don't remember.
Not a clue.
No, I don't know. So I assume. Well, go on then, Chris. What's your grade?
It's an F because I don't think I've ever seen a team quite so bad.
No, you're too young to remember Oxford 2000, 2001.
I mean, remember, James, I'm an Oldham fan.
Yeah, but you're still too young to remember Oxford 2000, 2001. I don't think there's ever been a team as bad as Oxford 2000, 2001. Maybe at this level that I can remember. But
I've had this conversation with someone. I'm going to find these stats. Go on, I'll let Ed say his bit.
Go on then, Ed.
Oh, no, it's the same as you guys. They finished 22nd, but if you take away Bolton, they have been the worst side. 85 goals conceded in 35 games. If the season had played out, that could have been in the 90s, the way they were going, which is just horrific. And they finished 22nd, but you have to say they've been the worst side because you take into Bolton's deduction into consideration, and it's just been a miserable season to Southend United.
Let's hope it improves. I'm really hoping that everything comes together. They've got some managerial candidates to wade through. It's down to 3, I was reading, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Let's move on to Tranmere. Tranmere, now, they started the season really badly. You can't get away from that. Obviously, harsh treatment at the end of the campaign with the points per game and the fact that they are an improving side. They've done some good business in January to try and give them the best opportunity to stay in the division. Yet, it wasn't really... I can't really give them a passing grade because they were in the bottom 3 for a lot of that season. They never really improved too much. So I've given them a D-. I think January business brings them up from any lower grade because James Warren was a good purchase, and I think Alex Woodyard and Peter Clark, people like that, gave them some improvements on the pitch, and you saw it with the results. So for me, a D-. What have you gone with, Ed?
D. Similar to you, I think it's it's going to mean a huge what if with Tranmere, isn't it? What could have happened if the season had been able to play out? Because I think they still had MK Dons and Wimbledon to play, didn't they?
And Rochdale as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Rochdale with that 3-point gap and a game in hand, and they were on a decent run of form at the time, so you can never be truly sure what was going to happen. But you do.
I think they would have stayed up personally.
Possibly, you can. It's all up in the air, isn't it? But I do sympathise with them being stuck in a situation. I think, like you say, they can't really complain about being down there over the course of the whole campaign, but it is harsh to see them drop, so I'd give them a D.
Chris?
Yeah, I think you've both pretty much summed it up for me. It's a D for me. I would have thought they'd be a little bit higher, and they did just underperform up until January, plain and simple. I think I agree with you, James. I think they probably would have stayed up, and they are one of the ones that have are seriously disappointed by this points per game system.
Out of interest, what grade would you have given them if they had stayed up?
Probably a C+. Depends how high up they finish. If it was like 20th, I probably would have gone with a C+ because they'd have just done enough.
Yeah, I think so. Right, the next team, AFC Wimbledon, I have given them a B+, because I think Wimbledon, in their current guise, at their current ground, with their current ownership structure, to stay up at League One level is a successful season. Maybe as they progress as a club into new surroundings and have a bit more income streams, and it's a little bit easier, and maybe they change their ownership structure to sort of match other teams like Wycombe have done with new owners coming in. But at the moment, I think if they stay up, it is a massive achievement. They rely on very low budgets. They've limited the number of fans they can get into that ground, especially away fans as well. You only think your maximum capacity is about 700 there. So they do have some pretty tight restrictions on what they're able to do. I think overall I was pretty impressed with some of their business. Marcus Force was an excellent signing. Callum Riley from Gillingham I thought is a good player. And Max Sanders, on loan from Brighton, he impressed me at times as well. And Nathan Trott, he had a decent few games in goal if I remember rightly. And that's when they lost Toby Sebek to Barnsley, who was a big player from the previous season, and Deshi Oshalaja left as well. So I've gone for B+. I think Wimbledon staying up is a pass, and a good pass, because that's what really, that's their aim. They have to do that, and that's about as good as I can see them doing at this level until their situation changes. Ed?
I completely agree with you on the B+. I don't think a lot of people realise how much of an underdog Wimbledon are in this division. A lot of people who don't properly follow the club that closely. If you remember last season, was it around this stage that they just got off the bottom of the table and started that great comeback?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And this year, I don't know if they've actually been in the relegation zone for that long. They've always kept themselves just outside of it, which is really impressive for a club of that size, and the squad's done so well. And I think, yeah, I'd give them a B+ because they are really fighting hard in this division every year.
Yeah, no, agree, Chris?
Yeah, we're doing a good job of being unanimous here. I've gone for a B as well. They've exceeded expectation for me by staying up. So yeah, I can't remember. There's not much more I can say than that.
Okay, moving on, MK Dons. Now, this was slightly trickier because, they have advantages over all those teams in that bottom half in terms of the stadium, the infrastructure, and they do get bigger crowds, generally speaking. So what were their ambitions? Well, yeah, so of course. But I mean, coming into this season, what are their ambitions? They come in with Paul Tisdale as manager. They've just gone up via a last stage drama against Mansfield. So, what were their aims? I think their aims would have been more than just staying up. However, they had mitigating circumstances with that terrible injury crisis, which put pay to Paul Tisdale's time in charge. Then Russell Martin came in, and I thought it was going to be a big mistake giving him the job. But boy, did I look sheepish. I mean, that was a really good appointment. He did very well. He galvanised the team, got them playing a decent football, got the best out of certain players. I think bringing in Ben Gladwin and Carlton Morris was a stroke of genius in January. That worked really well for them. So yeah, I've given them a C- because I think it's a passing grade, but I think they would have overall expected to do slightly better across the season. But there were, like I say, circumstances. What have you gone with here, Ed?
You're taking the words out of my mouth, James, at the minute, because I've gone with a C as well.
Yeah, no, looks good.
It's such a similar one. I think the obvious highlight to Milton Keynes Dons, especially in the back half of the season, has been Reece Heatley, who has just been on fire. And that's really helped to keep them afloat. And you probably would say, if the season had played out, they probably would have stayed the same, perhaps even overtaken someone like Rochdale, maybe, with the thought that they were on. But no, I think it's been a fairly okay return. Maybe could have done a bit better, but I think they keep themselves afloat. Chris?
Had it not been for the injury crisis, I probably would have given them a D. But as you've both said, with the sort of factors they've had to contend with this season, I think it would be harsh to give them anything less than a C.
C. So you guys are going to say, I'm going to see mine. But just to let you guys know who are listening to this, we do not know what each other's marks are prior to recording. So this is quite good that we've gone for pretty unanimous decisions. Rochdale, I think, do well to, like other clubs, to stay in this division. I think their transfer business was pretty solid, actually. Reece Norton-Davies was an excellent pickup. Ergen O'Connell is good. Yeah, so they did bring in some good players, and maybe they were in danger of being sucked into the relegation battle. You don't really know, but considering where they are when the table was all set and finished, I've given them a B-. Ed?
I'm close. I'm a C+.
Not far off.
Yeah, not far off. Kind of where I am as well. And I think the thing with Rochdale, which a lot of people will realise, especially this season, is that reliance on Ian Henderson that they've had for the goals. Over the last few years, he's been absolutely incredible for them, and now they haven't got him anymore. So, next season, could we see the impact he makes on that team with them not being there? Perhaps. But this season, I think they've done a solid little job to keep themselves afloat, so I'll give them a C+.
Well, you mentioned next season. They've obviously lost Callum Camps, who signed for Fleetwood, and the name escapes me. Who's the whiz kid at right back?
Matheson, he's gone to Wolves.
That's it. So he won't be there next season. I mean, Matheson has been an absolutely brilliant player. So they've got some challenges to overcome, and the financial situation won't help a club like them one bit. Chris, what did you give them?
So this was another tough one for me.
What? Because you hate Rochdale?
Well, I'm going to say something that's going to amaze you, actually. I have a lot of admiration for Rochdale.
So I'm just going to stop recording here because that's really?
In the simple sense that they're a really, really well-run club. They have the same things to contend with as the likes of Oldham and Bury did. They're on the doorsteps of two of the biggest clubs in the country, arguably in world football. And they stay afloat, and they stay afloat reasonably comfortably. And and I think this season they've stayed up reasonably comfortably. There were a couple of times where we were thinking they might get dragged in. They didn't really. So it's for these reasons that I've given them a B. I think had they just scraped staying up, I would have given them a C, because I think that was the sort of bare minimum expectation, and they've exceeded that for me.
I like Brian Barry Murphy as well. I think he's a likeable guy.
Me too.
Yeah. Good hair as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid. Right.
Sure.
So, next one, Accrington. This is interesting. Accrington, probably the smallest budget in the division, rely very much on finding talent from outside the current EFL structure, so going into non-league. Colby Bishop was probably one of their main transfers. Dion Charles as well. So from Southport, Dion Charles came in. Colby Bishop from Leamington. And they had their core players. They lost Billy Key, sadly. He had to retire due to mental health problems, and he'd been such a massive player for them. And yet you look where they are in the table. They were fairly comfortable in staying up, and for those reasons, I've given them an A. I think for Accrington to be in League One and to be run how they are as a club, and to do the recruitment that they do each year, there's no way they can get an A for me in this one. What do you reckon, Ed?
I'm close. B+ for me. Partly because I thought Accrington would be where they are. We know how much of an underdog they are in this division, but they're so well run. They're so well organised, and the way that they can bring in talent from non-league, like who else would have had a stab at Colby Bishop in this division and produce that? This is what John Coleman's about. He is a master at picking up non-league talent and proving it's an EFL level player. He's brilliant at it, and they're a solid. I think they can call themselves a good League One outfit now. I think they deserve to be in this division with how they played over the last couple of seasons. So B for me, B+, definitely.
Chris?
Yeah, I've gone for a B. I think to have got an A from me, I would have wanted to see them a couple of places higher. But as you've both said, they do a fantastic job to actually survive at League One level. They're run so sustainably. And
they engage with their fans. Their fans are happy. It's a great place to go as an away fan.
It's almost like running a club sustainably and engaging with the fans is a really good way of running a football club.
Yeah, I'd like to see more people try that, actually.
Not that I've got an axe to grind this morning.
Yeah, no, of course you haven't. It's crazy. But let's take those plaudits, because I think those plaudits for Accrington. I mean, if a club was voted as like the best community club, there would be some good shouts in there. But I think Accrington, the way Andy Holt runs them, they wouldn't be far off winning that award, because just they're a pleasure, I think, for people to go visit. It's a place I've yet to go, actually, so I've got to make that a priority at some point.
It's nice. I do quite like Accrington.
So I just have the memory of
Accrington.
Watching them in the Johnston Paint Trophy a few seasons ago. We were a well-established League One club. They were in the bottom echelons of League Two. I remember Warren Feeney had a goal disallowed for us. We lost 1-0 to them. We were in the away end, so it's an open terrace. It's pouring down with rain. We're freezing. We're losing to little old Accrington Stanley, as we were sort of seeing them at the time. So I need to go again as a neutral.
Yes, certainly. I think on a sunny day as well might help. Right, Lincoln City. This is an interesting one. I'll be interested to see what you guys have given them. They came up, of course. Danny Cowley bringing them in, and a lot of hype around them. I think we had them doing quite well. They started the season looking good. And yeah, I think, you expect a Cowley side who has been, just building momentum for a number of seasons and being successful each and every year he's been there. Good signings that they picked up, and you thought, oh yeah, Joe Morrell, Jack Payne, Tyler Walker coming in. I was a big fan of Jake Hesketh, when the youngster from Southampton who's done very well. I think he went to MK Dons in the second part of the season, didn't he? I might be wrong, but he certainly played there. So they brought in all these guys that you looked at and you thought, wow, these are good signings. I mean, especially George Grant, who they got for a nominal fee with a big sell-on. That was a good bit of business to bring him in. And then, of course, Danny Cowley goes off to Huddersfield. The form drops. They bring in Michael Appleton. Oxford absolutely smashed them. Was it 6-0? 6-1? I can't.
I mean, you should know.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I'm always shocked when Oxford beat anyone by that sort of scoreline. I've been a fan for far too long. But I mean, it was an amazing match. All the goals. I mean, the XG from that game from Oxford was like less than 2, I think. But the goals we scored were so good that they were sort of low quality chance ratings, but high quality goals. Really good match. So you look at it and you thought, this is going to be interesting to see how they react without the Cowleys. But I think it's going to be a transition, and Michael Appleton is the right pick. He's the right man for the job. To the point where Bristol City's hierarchy are wanting him. I think obviously the compensation and the sudden emergence of the availability of Paul Cook might change that, but there's no doubt people rate Michael Appleton. He didn't really have the best time there, though. I think the transition was pretty difficult, but they stayed up. They were fairly solid, and for that reason, I've given them a C+. I've given them a passing grade, and I think they'll be one to watch next season, and over the next few years if Appleton stays there. What have you gone with here, Ed?
Just before I go, Jake Hesketh was at MK Dons back end of previous season after being at Burton.
Yes,
So
I knew he played there.
I think he might be permanent at Lincoln now. I'm not sure if he's still alone at Southampton or not.
I thought he was alone, but I'm not sure if they made it permanent.
Yeah. Lincoln at the start of the season, I was convinced we're going to be up the top, just because I felt the momentum they had with the Cowleys was going to carry them high up this division. It was showing at the start. I think they were second, weren't they, around September time. They were just having a fantastic start. And that drop-off with Appleton is noticeable. I remember we had a podcast we were doing where there were Lincoln fans talking about them getting relegated, and I think we thought, no, you're not going to do that. No. You've thought them off a bit, but you're not going to do that. So they've been alright this season. They perhaps could have been. It's a notable second half of the season drop off compared to the first, but I'd agree with you on the C+. I think they've been okay this season.
Chris?
It's a really tough one for me. I think I predicted them. I think I predicted them in the playoffs, so at least around there. But obviously that was under the Cowleys. When they disappeared, everything changed because that feel-good factor at Lincoln had been, so dependent almost on the Cowleys. So I think Ali Brothers still been in charge and they'd have finished here. I probably would have given them a D. But for the very fact that there was such a big change, Appleton came in. I think he probably needs the summer to really settle and build a little bit. So I've given them a C.
C, so pretty unanimous again. Moving on to Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury, I think if you look at performances on the pitch, I mean, goodness me, it was dire football. No doubt about it. I don't like Ricketts' ball. I don't like the setup that he uses. It's far too defensive when he had the quality of players available to him. And some of the ramblings that he went off in the media and the press also annoyed me because he was basically saying, we're doing fine because Shrewsbury Town shouldn't be aiming any higher than this, managing expectations. I just thought it was ill thought of thing to say, Don't worry, guys, I know we're playing really badly and boring football, but what do you expect with Shrewsbury? And you don't say that to your support base. So I don't necessarily like the recruitment model he uses. I know that their recruitment analysts went to Doncaster, and a lot of his signings came from clubs that he perhaps knew from his playing days or people he'd made acquaintances with in those regards. So there's a lot of ifs, buts and question marks. I mean, they had the good cup run, but then to lose to Liverpool's children in the manner that they did, they really should have gone for that game up at Anfield. And yes, we know the Liverpool's children are like a level above it. Pretty much every club in League 1 and 2. That's how good they are. But you've as a team, you've got to go for it, and they didn't. And so there's a lot of sort of negativity. But I think looking at where I expected them to be, I didn't expect them to be that far off where they finished. So I've given them a C-, and I have to say the jury is out on Ricketts for me still heading into the new season. It'll be interesting to see the recruitment. Josh Daniels reportedly joining from Glenarvan. He looks a good player, so that could be a nice nifty bit of business. So that will look like that might be their first signing. But yeah, for me, not a great season, but not bad enough to give them a failing grade. So I've given for a C-. What about you, Chris, on this one?
I expected them to be. I don't think I expected them to be much higher than this, but I did expect them to be higher than this. And you've hit the nail on the head. They've just been so negative this season. And actually, Shrewsbury fans might find it harsh, but again, I'm going to bring up that Liverpool game because it's the sort of game where you've really got an opportunity to express yourself as a team. You're going in with no pressure. You can play your stuff. If you lose, no one's going to be bothered. And I didn't feel they really went for it. And I think, again, this is in the nature of Ricketts as a manager. So for the fact that they didn't finish as high as I thought they would, and they didn't really look like they were going to finish much higher, I've given them a D.
You, Ed?
Well, I'm going to be nice, and I'm not going to bring up that particular game, so I won't bring it up. But I agree on the D. It's just been such a really flat season. Like, I didn't think there'd ever been relegation concern, because they're better than a number of sides in this league, but it's just been so underwhelming. 31 goals scored. I'm pretty sure only Bolton have scored less than them.
Yeah, they didn't create many chances either.
It's really disappointing to see. And there's been some decent players at Shrewsbury Town, but they just haven't really shown it this season, have they? So I'd probably go with a D.
Yeah, and some of those away performances, Doncaster, I think, and Gillingham in particular, stick in my mind as just being, if you went, God help you, brave souls. Right, moving on. Bristol Rovers. I've given Bristol Rovers a C. I think, yes, they were right up there under Graham Coughlin, but that was a sensational effort to get them where they were. They have limitations, mostly in their infrastructure off the pitch. So, and obviously Ben Garner then came in and then had to go on leave because of family bereavement. And I thought it was excellent from a club to give their manager time to do that, because this is football and it's a most disgustingly ruthless, heartless industry. So credit to the club for doing that. Obviously, they probably looked at that we're not in any particular danger here, so not a huge amount riding on it. I wonder if they'd have done that if they're in the midst of a proper relegation battle. But all you can say is credit where credit's due for allowing their manager his time off. But yeah, I just think they did okay, and it will be looked back as a season where the fans go, meh. It's not one that will stick in the mind. It's not awful, but I think giving Ben Garner this summer and sort of going again is only then will you really be able to judge him properly. So I've given them a C. Ed?
C minus. I'm a similar level to you. It's just, the drop that you look at. I think if people look at the first half of the season table and then the second half, you do look at Bristol Rovers and think, well, what's gone on there? But you've explained it perfectly there, what did happen. So you do take that into account, and I think I agree. It's kind of a season Bristol Rovers will look at and go, yeah, we had our moments, but it was ultimately a bit of an underwhelming one. So it's a bit okay. C minus to me.
Chris?
Middle of the pack. They, again, same as Ed said, same as you said, James. They had their moments, but never overexcited me too much, and they've done what was expected of them, so I see.
Moving on to Blackpool. Blackpool, a team that, under Simon Grayson, we all expected to be doing quite well. Feel good factor. Blackpool being back in the, with the fans, new season, new owners. It was really, it seems a long time ago, Chris, that you and I went there to watch Oxford play and lose.
Yeah.
Back in, I can't even remember when it was, but.
That was August, I think.
Yeah, it was long. It's such a long time ago. And they looked okay. I thought Oxford were the better team on the day, and we were slightly unfortunate to lose that match. But there's no doubt. I think the way it ended up was really disappointing, considering how they've been a solid looking playoff side for most of the campaign. So Grayson bringing in Neil Critchley will be an interesting one. They've already done a lot of business, but based on their performances, expectations, and transfer business, I've given them a D. I can't give them any higher. I don't think it's really been a great season, and it promised a lot more than it actually ended up giving. Ed?
Yeah, I'm similar with you. I've gone with a D+. I kind of looked at these, and I do this season, to be honest. I do think they're going to be dark horses this season, and I kind of thought they could be that again this year. It's just not gone right with Grayson, did it? It really didn't. And there was a decent squad there, perhaps not a top team, but one you felt could be up there, and they haven't really looked close the most of a number of months, have they?
No, been a bit off the pace. What did you give them, Chris?
Yeah, I've gone the same. I gave them a D. They should have done better, there's no doubt about it. I think when we went to see them back in August, we expected really exciting stuff from them, and they were good, don't get me wrong, but they didn't blow me away, and that's pretty much the story of the season. They've looked all right at times, but never blown me away. And I really think they should have been at least toying with the idea of making the playoffs. And in the end, they weren't close. So it's a D.
Right, the next team, the second best side in yellow in this division, is Burton Albion. Finishing bang in mid-table.
I want to hear your thoughts on this first before I go to mine. I'm curious what you guys think.
Okay, well, Burton being the club they are, I think to achieve where they finished, they're a well-run club. They look good. I thought some of their signings were pretty good. I felt there was, watching them how they did beat Oxford, I know that they did very well against Oxford during the two games in the season, and based on looking at the performances that they could achieve when they were at it, I think that they were slightly disappointing in how they ended up finishing. And obviously, the key players that you had, Scott Fraser, people like that, Liam Boyce leaving, that's going to be interesting to see how you replace them. But I can't give them a failing grade. I think finishing where they did was roughly where I expected them to do, maybe give or take a place or two higher. So I've given them a C, and I think it's going to be a very interesting period of now without Nigel Clough, without a couple of key players, how they then transition into the next season. But that's what I've given them. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, Burton's always a strange one. You look at them, the recent history, and they've been in the Championship, but the fact of the matter is that they're a reasonably small club. They're run very, very well. They're well established at this level now. I could have seen them doing better this season, but I also could have seen them doing worse. So for that reason, I've given them a C as well.
Go on then, Ed. Tell us if we're right or wrong.
No, I agree with you largely. I've actually gone with a C minus because I think about the drop off in the second half. When Boyce scored against MK Dons on, I think it was the 4th of January, we were in the playoffs, we were 6th. That lasted 4 days. That was as high as it got all season. And it slowly dropped off from that, and the losing the goals. Yes, Jamie Murphy came in, brought in some of the goals, and he was on fantastic form. But if we'd had him, Akins and Boyce as a front three in the back end of the season, I think we'd have been in contention. But losing that focal point at the front line really cost us. And then the defensive issues came through as well. That Lincoln game, one of the last ones, I still remember, that was still horrific, and the defeat to Ipswich as well. But I just want to say, we finished 12th with 12 wins, 12 draws, 11 defeats, 50 goals scored, 50 goals conceded, 0 goal difference, mid-table. That is as mid-table as you can get, so it's around the C mark to me, C minus, I think.
It's just depressing that you had an 11 in there.
Well, if we'd got one more game in, we were meant to play Wickham, so that would have been a defeat, definitely. So we would have got that, but then again, the goal difference would have disappeared.
It's like when you're filling up your petrol, and you're trying to decide.
Oh, I know what you mean, yeah. It's just like that, isn't it? You get
do you want the litres perfect?
Do you go £49.98 or do you get £50 and 3 pence? It's going to end up that, isn't it? You're never going to get bang on.
But also, do you go for the litres being right, or do you go for the price being...
Oh,
Chris, that's what it's the price every time, isn't it?
Decisions.
I never go with I'll do 25 litres. I'll do 30 quid. That's.
It's when it's like £1 and 1 pence or something like that. It's like when the price is quite low and it's just so similar.
I wish petrol was £1 and 1 pence.
It was the other week.
Was it?
Well,
I must have missed that.
We had it at like 99p for a little while.
No way.
When I was a kid, I used to play spot the cheapest petrol station with my mum when we were driving, right? And the one I always remember was 48.9p a litre.
Welcome to the Petrol Podcast.
Where was that?
It was that was like a 1 penny cheaper than what the price was back when I was growing up. So that's how petrol was cheap.
49p.
Yeah, 48.9p. There you go. Right, moving on because we're running out of time. So Ipswich. Let's be honest, it was poor. No way you can dress it up. It was a poor season from Ipswich. They had a lot of promise at the start. Maybe their fans were right when they were saying they think they're overachieving. I think they should have done better though than they ended up doing. I mean, you've got a team with James Norwood up front. You have, you've got. I mean, I thought actually transfer-wise, some of that looked pretty good. Kane Vincent-Young's injury, I think, was a big blow because he looks so energetic and creative on that right-hand side, even though he's a left player naturally. So Garbutt did well against all of my expectations of him. He did well. So But they just dropped off so badly. They went on that terrible run. Paul Lambert then was given a 5-year contract. I mean, absolutely bizarre. So I can't go any higher than an E+. I can't go too much lower because, it could have been worse. But an E+ for me, a poor season from Ipswich. What do you reckon, Ed?
Oh, I'm similar. I think E's a bit harsh. I've gone D-.
I think I don't. I mean, my reasoning again is against expectations. I mean, I thought they would be minimum playoffs. You look at the team coming down, and you look at the crowds, the budget, and just some of those signings, like people like James Norwood and Caden Jackson.
It's a tricky one. I'm just thinking more about the fact that they absolutely took Burton to shreds at Portland Road, and that makes me think that there is actually a team in here that can do things to people, but hasn't quite lived up to what it was. I'd say D- personally for me, but I wouldn't complain about your E+, definitely.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm more with James here. I think the fact that they're still in the top half of the table, or bang mid-table, I guess, really, isn't it? Means that they don't get an F. They had everything in their hands to be, at the very, very least, a playoff side, and they've not even come close, so it's got to be an E.
Yeah, they fluffed it. And also, I think they should get minus points for suggesting that, after points per game, the way to finish the season was let anybody who wants to be in the playoffs be in the playoffs. Seriously. No. Right, Gillingham. Gillingham's an interesting one. I think huge progress made this season under Steve Evans. A lot of good players signed. I think his transfer business was nice. I think some of the football was surprisingly good at times. I mean, I know they had their moments where they weren't so good, but I think the signing of Akinde was good. Conor Ogilvie coming in on a permanent, he was excellent. It's an interesting one, and I think I don't know I'm trying to think where I'd expect them to be this coming season. They're a difficult one to place because did they overachieve this year? I'm not necessarily convinced they did, but I know their chairman gets a lot of stick at times from some of the fans, and some of the players get a lot of stick. They just picked up Brian Jackson. Good signing, in my opinion. I know he's played there before, and sometimes going back is not always good, but Alfie Jones, good signing. I thought Mandron did well. Jakubiak did well. Ollie Lee is a player I really admire. I thought he was an excellent pickup. Stuart O'Keefe is a good signing. Jack Bonham, I think, will be a solid goalkeeper there for years to come. So I've gone with a B+. I think it's a really positive season, and it gives them a great platform moving forward. Ed?
I can't believe I'm going to give a B to a Steve Evans team. I can't believe I don't look. He's a Marmite character, Steve Evans, isn't he? You got to admire what he. I don't personally like the way he acts on the side of the pitch, but you can't admire. He's a decent manager at this level, and he's done a good job with Gillingham this season with a squad that I wouldn't properly say it's a top 10 squad. I know you can argue, they technically finished 11th on points. They've gone on 10th on PPG, but I wouldn't say it's a side that I'd expect to be up with some of the other clubs up there. So I do give them fair play to that. So I'd go with a B.
Chris?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit higher than I expected them, maybe one or two places higher. And Steve Evans has done good work. He's put a platform in place for them to grow. So I will give them a B.
Excellent. Right, moving on to Doncaster. I've given them a B. I think this is a really solid season, considering the talent that they shed. And I think we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but they lost some good players from the previous campaign, especially John Marquez. If they'd had a decent forward line for longer, because I know that Niall Innes had some cerebral injury problems, then I think they could have troubled the playoffs. I mean, they were looking like a team that could trouble the playoffs. Obviously it all stopped a bit too soon for them, but I think that was a very positive season, and I think it gives them, it gives Darren Moore something really positive to build on. And against expectations, I expected them to be probably just outside the playoff contention, on the cusp. So for me, that is a bang on B. I think it's a good season. It's a passing grade, and it's well decent. Chris?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because they're actually about where I expected them. But also they have had a couple of injuries to contend with. I've not given any plus grades so far. I'll give them a C+. I think they've slightly exceeded what I expected.
Ed?
I agree with you in the B. I think I saw quite a lot of people who basically saw Doncaster 6 last year and thought they'd do it again. But you've got to remember who they got rid of. Ben Whiteman's been brilliant. I don't think we can doubt that. He's always been one of the best midfielders in the league, definitely. And yeah, there was a slight chance they might have pushed the playoffs if the season had been able to play out. But I can't really complain about ninth place finish, so I'll go with the B.
Sunderland up next, and it's very difficult when you get to these teams because actually Sunderland were 3 points off automatic promotion. Is that right? So it's very, very difficult to say, well, terrible season. They didn't make it. They didn't get automatics. They were outside the playoffs, but they could have been. There's plenty of matches left. I mean, there was 30 points left on the board to play for. They were 3 points off automatic. So this is where, in this division in particular, it gets very tricky. But we are going to do it from where they finally finish. Otherwise, you'd be wrangling for ages. So I've given them a D- because I think they are a huge team, big budgets, but there was so much distraction off the field this season. It really fell apart. The fans were unhappy for a lot of the campaign. The performances were mixed. Phil Parkinson did get them playing at one point some good football, but he started so badly, and the vitriol that he was getting.
They love him there. They love him.
Oh dear, it's a huge club, and I don't think there is a sense. I mean, I do sometimes get a sense of entitlement from some of the fans, and I'm not being unfair to them. There are a few I've heard where they said this is a tin pot league, we should be bossing it. Well, yes, I agree in terms of the infrastructure, the size of the club, the size of the fan base, but it does take whatever size of club, a well-run a well-run machine all the way through the organisation to be able to get promoted, to be able to do what you want to achieve. And it's not so simple as just saying we're a big club, we should do it. So for me, it's a failing season. It's a D-, but it won't take a lot to turn this team around. It won't, because they were only, like I say, they didn't play that well for a lot of the season, yet they were only 3 points from automatic. So for me, failing season, but let's just hope this stuff off the pitch gets sorted sooner rather than later, because it's a huge problem and a huge distraction. Ed?
Yeah, D. It's a weird one with Sunderland, isn't it? Because you do look at the size of the club and expect a lot more. I think they deserve quite a lot of praise for their defence, which has been pretty well set up at times. They conceded the second fewest behind Coventry out of anyone in the division. Chris Maguire's obviously been brilliant, been the real main point of the attack. Would they have made the playoffs had the season played out? I've got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I think the sides above them were probably a bit better organised and a bit better with their performances and their results. But yeah, it's been another underwhelming season for Sunderland, so I'd go with a D.
Chris?
Yeah, I think you're right, James. They were close on points. But let's be honest about this. Sunderland shouldn't be close. They should be there, and they should be there comfortably. And I think there's a lot going on at play with them. I think right from the fans up to the top board level, they see Sunderland as not even a championship club in waiting. They see them as a return to the Premier League in waiting, I think, in a lot of ways. And they're still reeling from the fact that they're in League One, and they shouldn't be in League One. I don't think any team has a right to be higher than League One, but let's be honest, it's Sunderland. They shouldn't be in League One. And I don't think they've ever properly come to terms with the fact that they are where they are and that they need to build a club to win in League One.
Yeah, and then progress from there, isn't it?
I think they're a long way off the Premier League. I shouldn't even start thinking about that yet. That is a long way off yet.
I think you're right, but I think there's still that thought process, at least with some at board level.
There's no doubt the infrastructure's there, but yeah. So what did you go with the grade, Chris?
I gave them a D in the end. They should have been at least really battling for an automatic position, and I think I'm with Ed actually. I'm not convinced that had the season progressed further, they would have even made the playoffs. I think we say they're 3 points out, but they were the least convincing of those sides around them, weren't they? Yeah, they were.
Okay, so Peterborough. This is difficult again because I think they would have gone up automatically or had a great chance of doing it. But based on where they finished and the players that they had, I've given them a passing grade. I've given them a C+. I mean, I feel that might be a bit harsh, but that's what I've given them. I think, the performances were excellent. They're scoring goals. But they did slip up at key times where you wouldn't expect them to, and that kind of left them where they were, literally just outside the equation, because they're outside the playoffs, even on points per game and in reality. So, difficult one. Good transfer business as always. You always expect Peterborough to do well in transfer business, but really weird situation that the season ended. So, but I've given them a C+, and I think they'll do well again next year. Ed?
I've gone with a B+. I love this team. I think they've been brilliant this season. That front line, people like Ivan Toney, Sariki Dembele, Moise, and then you bring Sammy Schmodix into that. It's so tricky with Peterborough because, as with a lot of these teams, you look at it and say, if the season had been able to play out, what would have happened? And you do look at Peterborough and think, well, they could definitely have ended up in that top six, potentially even taken Rotherham's spot in second. And it's incredibly, it's them and Tranmere that I sympathise most with this whole situation in League One. I think that's safe to say. But generally, I think they have been a really good side. And I think I'd say they were better than what they were last year. And even last year, they were close to the playoffs. But this team, I think, has been even better. So I'd go with a B+ personally. Chris?
Another one I struggled with. I've struggled with a lot of this table, to be honest. But at times they've looked like a typical Peterborough, as you said, James, slipping up at important times. But as Ed said, I've enjoyed watching them a lot this season. So for that reason, I have gone for a B. I could have given them a C because 7th is probably about where I expected them, but I've given them a B for the entertainment factor.
I think that's a fair grade as well. Moving on to Fleetwood. This was again quite tricky, but I think they had a very good season. They finished in the playoffs. They then imploded in that first leg, but based on the performances and the business that they always do, and the size of club they are, and the fact that they've got Joey Barton, who's a sort of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of guy. He can seem so intelligent and well reasoned at one moment, and then the next minute he's punching a fellow manager in the jaw. So I really you really don't know what you're going to get apart from a side that works extremely hard, flies into the tackles, and Fleetwood's an interesting one because their chairman puts in a lot of money. So it's like, is he artificially inflating the where this team should be? Yes. Is it his right to do that? Yes. So I've given them a B+. I think it's a very positive season. I think Fleetwood competing with some of the teams up there is a good achievement, and they weren't that far off getting promoted, which I think is ultimately their goal in the end. But playoffs is a big achievement for them. So I've given them B+. What do you reckon, Chris?
I completely agree, actually, James. They've got a lot of money in them, so I can't sort of go they're 6th and they're Fleetwood. That's fantastic because they have got the money to compete in that sort of part of the table. But they've been entertaining. I think Joey Barton, I don't particularly like him as a person, but as a manager, he's very, very good. So for that reason, I've gone for a B as well.
B, okay. Ed?
Yeah, I'll go with a B as well. There's 2 grades here, really, isn't there? There's regular season Fleetwood, and then there's playoff first leg Fleetwood, which is just... Let's not talk about that. But I think we've been saying for a few months that Fleetwood were actually one of those outfits that had kind of snuck into the playoffs without people really paying too much attention to them, just because of the size of the club compared to others in that division, and with how well Wycombe Wanderers were doing as well.
They do quietly go about their business, don't they?
They
grinding
do,
out
and
results,
they had a really good team. I love Harry Suter. He's been brilliant that season. And then
my favourite player, I think, was Wes Burns. I think what he can do when he's
as well. And then Paddy Madden is such a reliable goal scorer at this level. He's a fantastic player as well. So I think they've had a probably good season. I go with a B, and we won't talk about the playoff first leg. We won't bring that up again.
Portsmouth finishing in the playoffs, probably where you'd expect them to finish. They were challenging for automatics when it all came. But the weird thing about this season for Portsmouth, wasn't it? Was this weird fan antagony, or I don't know what you call it really. I mean, at times they loved Kenny Jackett. Maybe they will say no, we never did. But when he got them on good runs, he got the support from the supporters. They were all behind him. But early on they were against him, and then when they lost to Oxford in the playoffs, they're all against him again. So it's a difficult one, but you can't give them any less than a B for me from where they finished. It's a good season to finish in the playoffs. Is a good achievement. It's where you'd expect them to be, and I thought some of their business was pretty solid. I mean, Ryan Williams is a player I like. Sean Raggett did well at times and was physical. Marcus Harness, that goal he scored in the playoffs against Oxford, just summed how good a player he was. John Marquis as well, was decent. I think he could have been utilised better at times. But yeah, overall, I think it's a solid season. It's a B, and I think Cameron McGeehan, if they can get him back, he was such a good player for them in the playoff games. He looks like a player, if they can keep him and get him back on permanent from Barnsley, then they've got that midfielder who can do quite a lot for them. But yeah, B for me. Ed?
B- for me. Start the season, I felt Portsmouth had the best squad depth in terms of depth and ability of anyone in this division. I had them to win it. I thought they'd go up automatically and make the step up from last season where they made the playoffs and then make the step from there. And obviously they had that really awkward start when everyone was doubting Jacket and he picked up the form. And again, it's another one where you go out and say, if the season had played out, what would have happened? There's this and that, isn't it? And I think they just slightly underperformed round one, but still had a decent campaign, so I'll go B-.
Chris?
I've actually gone with a C for them, and that might be slightly harsh, but I will defend it. They should finish fifth. That's where they should be. They're a big club. They've got a reasonably expensive squad, and they've got the fan base behind them. And I think they've just done what I expected of them. So I've gone for a C.
No, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. I can see that. I was tempted to do a B-, C+, but I went with B because I think the thing is they turned it around, and I always like teams that turn it around. I think because it is not that easy, this division, especially when you're on a bad run. So to finish where they did in the end, I thought was a pretty good achievement. Now we come to the best team in world football, and certainly the best team in this division who wear yellow.
Wickham are up after this. What are you on about?
No, Ed. No, Ed. I see you still have a lot to learn. You're a Padawan still, as Jedi League One podcasting goes. So Oxford United, right? So I gave us an A. I think I snapped your hand off.
What a shock!
Well, no, but based on where I expected us to be, did I expect us to be basically in with a shout of automatic promotion when the season ended? No. I'd have taken Fleetwood. I'd have taken being right on the cusp on the last day, having a chance to stay in the playoffs. I mean, so for me, it was a brilliant season, and I think we lost key players. 3 of our best players left during the season. We lost Fosu, we lost Cadden, and we lost Baptiste, and yet we still managed. And Ben Woodburn was injured for a huge amount of the time. So, and we lost Nathan Holland, who came in obviously from West Ham and looked an awesome player. He had such talent, and then he went back injured. So we lost some very important players, and still managed to achieve what we did. We played good football. We were entertaining. I've been an Oxford fan for a long time, and these seasons are few and far between. So for me, that's an A. It was an absolute joy to watch. Yes, it ended disappointingly, but a playoff is a playoff. You get to that sort of lottery, anything can happen, as we saw on the day at Wembley. So overall, for me, I'm delighted with how the season went, and I'm looking forward to another campaign, albeit with probably a couple less stars who were going to be snapped up over the summer. But Matty Taylor back as well. Great news. Ed?
I agree with the A. I do actually. And you
see, Chris, you laughed.
I was thinking of an A- at first, but your talk there has kind of swung me towards it, and I do think, now that I think back to the prediction, I had Oxford nowhere near 4th place. Nowhere near when I think about it. I think I had them around the top 10, maybe top half. I think a lot
of fans had them, based on when we did our predictions, we signed hardly any players. People thought we'd struggle again. So crazy what happened.
It's impressive how good this young squad has been, and I think the big worry is how many of them are still going to be there a month or so from now. I think that could be the worry for a lot of people, but no, they've had a great season and came incredibly close and missed out at the final hurdle. So no, it's been a good campaign.
Yeah, Gavin White, Mark 2, Josh joined as well, Cooper, this chap coming in from the League of Ireland again. Alex Gorham was another good signing that didn't get much credit because he's not so attacking, but he was excellent. There's very little to complain about, to be honest, as an Oxford fan in this year. Chris, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts after your sniggerers at my A.
As much as I like to wind you up, James, I have also gone for an A.
Well, there you go.
I think the fact that
Full house.
they were doing very well and lost their best players and still did very well. I think that's an absolute credit to what's been built at Oxford. So yeah, fantastic work this season.
Yeah, and the training ground looks good as well. So there's a lot to like. And,
just the stadium to sort out now.
Oh yes, that's been only like that.
I'm knocking you down to an A- to that. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
and the fact that you call yourself the best yellow team in League One, but you couldn't beat the other yellow team in League One over 2 games.
Ooh.
So
it's a marathon, Ned, not a sprint. It's the only thing that matters is where you finish in the league table, and
you'll be regretting saying that next season. You know that, James. Ed's going to record this bit.
Yeah, he's going to put this back out. Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'll let you do an audio clip of it. Wickham A-star, no doubt about it. I know they were lucky in terms of the points per game and the form they were in when that all ended, but just to be in the automatic promotion places, to be up there, we all thought they would struggle. Let's be honest, they were poor at the end of last season in terms of the performances and results. So to do what they did was absolutely unbelievable. And I may be the only one who's a bit tired of Akin Fenwa claiming almost like it was just like he did it all by himself, which is just.
I love him.
He's a character, but I don't know. I just was getting. Maybe it's. I have to say, there's probably some sour grapes somewhere in this gut of mine about that. But no, I think Wickham A-star. Can't give him any less. Gareth Ainsworth, a manager given time, and he's achieved great things. And I think this is a model that other clubs should go with. You know, look at this manager. He's been given a long time. He's given support. He hasn't had a huge budget ever, and yet they've achieved. They've achieved beyond what I think any of their fans would have expected. They're in the Championship next year, so how can you give them any less than an A-star? Absolutely brilliant. Ed?
I'm going to bring up pre-season quick. I've never ever cared for pre-season results. I don't think they reflect the season at all, and you see a lot of times overperform what they do based on pre-season results. And the reason I say that is because I went to watch Wickham play at is it Wealdstone or Wealdstone? How do we say it?
Wealdstone, yeah.
Wealdstone. I went to watch them play at Wealdstone. They got a 1-1 draw. They were really poor on the day, and you would have looked at them and thought, right, they're going to struggle. They've just gone up, scoring less goals than Accrington Stanley.
Yeah.
A-star. Pre-season results, this pre-season as well, whatever clubs are on pre-season, don't pay attention to it. It does not reflect your season at all. What matters is what you do in the season, not what you do before it. Don't ever care the pre-season results.
A-star. Ainsworth, he's a fellow Liverpool graduate. He wore a leather jacket in the semi-final. I can't give them less than an A-star for those 2 factors.
Yeah, brilliant season. I wish them well next year. Rotherham, I've gone with an A. I know that they may have been dislodged if the season had continued, but and again, a manager who gets them playing. They play entertaining football. They, on their day, were better than any team. They beat Oxford at the Kassam, and they look good doing it. So, and they're the yo-yo team going up and down, up and down, up and down. They've achieved a promotion again. They don't seem to have the relegation hangovers that other teams do, and it's because they've got stability, both on and off the pitch. And that is a huge credit to their chairman, Mr. Stewart, and to the fact that he gives them time. So yeah, for me, it's an A. It's a brilliant campaign, and I hope this is the season next year where they'll stay in the Championship and maybe consolidate. But if they come down, I have no doubt that they will be a stable unit again and be pushing close again. They just do that, and they've been a great club doing that over the last few years. So an A for me. Ed?
B. That might be quite harsh. Yeah. Look, they've done what I expected. Come on,
do you know the alphabet?
Stop putting me down like this. Rotherham. Look, Rotherham. Rotherham are that side. We know.
You're just starting brandy in your coffee at the morning, mate. It's
No, can I say? Rotherham have done what I expected them to do, which is bounce back, because they always bounce back. We talk about them as just yo-yo club between the 2 divisions. You expect them to be probably either second or going up in some form of promotion. So they've done that. They haven't particularly blown me away. If they'd won the league, like what Coventry have done, I'd give them an A. But they've kind of done what I thought, so it's been a good season, but one I expected, so I'll go with a B.
Okay, and Chris?
They've done better than I expected. I thought they'd be around the playoffs, and they've got the automatics. They've played really good football, and they've just been good. So I'll give them an A.
And finally, Coventry, I'm sure we'll all agree here, A start season, not played a single home game all year, great recruitment, a manager that you can hang your hat on. I mean, absolutely brilliant to watch as well. Players all over the pitch who contribute. They don't really have Matty Goldman's their top scorer, but they don't have a single guy that they rely on so much. So really impressive for me from Coventry. And yeah, I've given them an A star, and I don't think you can give them any less. What do you reckon, Ed?
I completely agree with you on that. Brilliant season, brilliant side, so well organised. Not the highest scorers in the division, but they're efficient, and that's what's taken them up ahead of Olders. And I don't think there's any doubt to anyone that they were going to go up anyway. They've lost 3 times in the league. That's brilliant. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. They've had a fantastic season.
And Chris, finally, I'm sure you'll agree, A star surely.
Yeah, I had doubts about them at the start of the season. I thought being out of their home, I mean, the squad that was built was fantastic, but being away from their home, I thought the off-the-field sagas might distract them. It absolutely hasn't. They've been fantastic. It would be impossible to give them less than an A star.
Indeed. So that concludes our report cards. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. If you think I'm rushing the end here a little bit, I'm on strict time constraints this morning because I'm taking the kids out. So thank you very much for listening. Really enjoyed going through this with you, Chris and Ed. Really appreciate your work that you put in throughout the season. We'll keep you posted when we're next back. We might have a break next Sunday, but yeah, enjoy the off season, everyone. And Chris, keep your chin up.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed listening, guys. Take care and goodbye.